Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. One of my viewers wanted to know how to create characters and build a world in storytelling. And this is something I have extensive experience in as the pulp writer and publisher of the SJS Direct imprint. And over the course of about 70% of the 80 books I have written as related to building the SJS Direct universe, I have learned how to go out here and create characters and build a world of black characters in the SJS Direct universe that show you a richer picture of black life. Now, as I was working on this SJS Direct universe as far back as about 1999 when I wrote the first ISIS, this is where I started to really get serious about creating characters, and creating characters is the foundation for your world as related to storytelling, because storytelling is about people, and with storytelling being about people, you really want to understand that creating characters is the foundation for everything. Now, when it comes to creating multi-dimensional characters, you have to understand you're creating a person, and as you create this person, we need to see three things as related to their dimension. We need to see the visual as related to their description. We need to see their internal conflict as related to what they're struggling with on the inside, and we need to see the conflict that they're dealing with as related to the outside world. And this is how we get the three dimensions of that character. We get the visual dimension as related to their look. We get the internal traits as related to their struggles on the inside. And we get the external conflict, which is the obstacle they're going to run in. Now, this basically is going to lead to you asking three critical questions I learned from the book Sid Field Screenplay that you need to answer as related to creating your character after you've created their visual look. You've created their internal character traits as related to what they like and what they dislike. What are their flaws as related to who they are as a person, and their external character traits, which are the obstacles. The three questions you're going to have to ask yourself are: who is this main character? What do they want? And why should the audience care? Now, who is the main character is what you're going to have to ask, because your lead character is the one who is going to be the person who is going to drive the story. The lead character is the one that the story revolves around, and the lead character is different from a supporting character, because a supporting character basically looks to support the hero or basically support the antagonist, but the lead character is the hero of your story, whether they be a good guy or a bad guy. They're the lead, they're the one who are driving the story, because they are the ones confronting the conflict. And again, this is what you're going to establish early on. Ask the question, who is the main character? And after you ask the question, who is the main character, you're going to ask yourself, okay, what does this character want to do? What do they want to accomplish? And after you ask that question, this is where you're going to set up the challenge for the character as related to their internal character traits, as related to what issues this person is going to have on the inside, as related to whatever is challenges in front of them. And then externally, you're going to focus on the obstacle this character is going to face in their lives. And all of this has to make the audience care in order to read the story. Now, I'm going to give you an example of this for one of my novels, The Temptation of John Haynes. Now, for The Temptation of John Haynes, I had to establish the character of John Haynes, who is a black man, and again, a black man who was on his way as he was working at a company called Sunrise Foods, and the obstacle he wound up running into in the story was he was looking to go out here and get a job. Now, he had a job, but he was wound up getting fired from that job when he ran into an obstacle as related to him winding up running into classism from a black person who was a part of the elite. And this black elite person basically did not want him to be rising up further anymore in the company. And this led to him winding up looking to try to find another job. And again, as he was looking to find this other job, this is where he runs into Lucifer. And again, Lucifer, the devil, doesn't like John Haynes because he's a good man. And he wants to go out here and tempt John Haynes by going out here and having him work at this company, Morris Phillips, as their CEO. And as he's at this company, he's running into obstacles that are basically meant to tempt his character and tempt him as a man. And again, the overall story I was looking to do was to show the challenges that this good man was facing as he was in this corporate hell and is basically being tempted not only by the corporate policies, but also tempted by a attractive she-demon Esteem. And the whole thing was about creating this character and the challenges that they ran into as he was dealing with, again, his own issues as related to him dealing with being a quiet person and having to be in this people position where he had to be active. Again, there were a lot of challenges with this character because I really thought out this character as he was dealing not only with his own internal issues of feeling like he could struggling with this job, but also dealing with this change in culture and way of life. So there was a lot of different things as related to that character. And when you're creating characters, you really need to think about the conflicts and obstacles you're putting in front of your hero. And as you're thinking about, again, the conflicts and obstacles you're putting in front of your hero, you also have to think about the conflicts and obstacles you're putting in front of your villain. Now, the other part of creating characters as related to things is you're not only creating a hero who is a protagonist, you are also creating an antagonist, and the antagonist also needs to have a conflict within themselves as related to their struggles, and that conflict in themselves as related to their struggles. This is going to allow you to put some layers on your storytelling where you're going to get some contrast to your story and show how both of these characters are basically dealing with their struggles. Now, for the temptation of John Haynes, I basically chose the Esteem character to be the antagonist of the story, and I chose her to be the antagonist of the story because the Esteem character basically is supposed to be the antithesis to John Haynes. She's supposed to be the opposite side of the coin. And she herself wants a job, but in contrast, she wants a job not in the world of the material, but in the world of the spiritual. And she wants a job in the world of the spiritual, where she wants to be a part of Lucifer's elect. And she wants to be a part of Lucifer's elect because she basically is dealing with an internal character trait as related to having issues as related to power and wanting to have power because she didn't feel that she had power over her own life due to issues that had to do with her upbringing and the issues that she had with her father. So the Esteem character is the opposite of John Haynes in that she wants a job, but she wants a job because she wants to, again, meet some emotional needs, whereas John Haynes basically wants to meet his economic needs as related to his survival. So both characters, again, are dealing with conflicts, and those conflicts put them in the direction of each other. So when you're creating characters, again, you want to create characters who are, again, multidimensional, and you want to create characters who are people who struggle with things and as related to their flaws, and a character with good flaws basically, again, drives the story, and again drives the story because this drives the conflict as related to the internal struggles they're dealing with, as related to the external issues, and this basically makes the story more compelling for the reader. So when you're creating characters, again, you really want to focus on the internal story because this is what's going to draw the reader in and make them care. Now, some people like to focus on the visuals, and I like to focus on the visuals myself for characters, and that's part of what inspires me. Like, for example, with John Haynes, I make him look a little bit like myself because I base the character on many of the struggles I've had as a black man in the job market. But for the Esteem character, I was inspired way back in the 90s by actress Sally Richardson Whitfield. I always liked the way that she spoke, and I always thought that she had a very intelligent way of speaking. Not to mention, she was a very attractive woman, and I thought it would be great to see her playing an antagonist, because she always played lawyers and doctors and scientists and those type of things. But I always learned that, if you want to really get over, you play the heel role. And again, I gave the character looking like Sally Richardson because I thought she was an attractive woman who spoke very well, and I thought that would fit well for a demon character. Now, for the Lucifer character, I based the character on actor Keith David as related to his overall look, and that I also was inspired by him because I liked the way he sounded and the way he spoke as well. And again, I always thought he had a great voice for playing the devil, and that was one of the reasons why I chose him to be that character. Now, as I was creating The Temptation of John Haynes, I was laying the foundation for the overall SJS Direct universe, and as I laid the foundation for the overall SJS Direct universe, what I was looking to do was go out here and basically lay the foundation for a world of the supernatural, of angels, demons, gods, and monsters, and that was the theme for my world. And again, when you're creating a universe of characters, you have to lay down the foundation for that world and what type of theme that world is going to be, because you want everything to flow organically in that world so it can make sense to the reader. Because with a lot of readers, they basically want to see everything coming together in an organic fashion. They want to be able to say, okay, if this is a world where we've got demons and gods and monsters, everything is fitting within that overall design, and everything is fitting in that design so that everything that's in these stories flows organically, and that world of people basically winds up flowing in a way that basically makes it where everything makes logical sense to the reader. Even though it's a fictional world, it still needs to have some sort of logic as related to its continuity. And when you're building your world, you want to make sure that everything fits within that theme so that it can be something that makes sense to the reader. Now, as you're building your world, you're not going to build it all overnight. No, when it comes down to building a world of characters, this is something that is done chapter by chapter in a story. It's just built over time. And the first book, you're basically, what you're going to do is just establish the character, establish the character's mission, establish the character's conflict. That's what you're going to do in that first book. That's what I did with The Temptation of John Haynes, was just basically establish the character of John Haynes, and I established the character's mission overall as related to him not only having this job, but also dealing with the struggles as related to maintaining his integrity as a follower of God and a servant of God in this corporate hell. That is the core to the conflict. Again, the conflict with John Haynes is all about him maintaining his spiritual integrity in this corporate hell, and maintaining his integrity in this corporate hell, where the entire corporation is run by the devil and his demons, and basically is filled with all sorts of supernatural creatures. I mean, this is the overall foundation for John Haynes, and I build on this as related to the SJS Direct universe. And again, this is what the foundation was. Now, as I was building the SJS Direct universe with The Temptation of John Haynes, I decided to go back to the 2002 book I written called Isis, where the character Esteem basically was the antagonist to Isis. But then I decided, I like this character. I'm going to go out here and bring her back for another story, and I'll bring her back for a story where she could get more depth and layers. And those two stories basically, again, were how I built a universe of characters, because I brought the characters from Isis into the modern world with The Temptation of John Haynes. And those two books basically laid the foundation for the overall SJS Direct universe, because it showed how these two sets of characters were interacting in the same world. And as these two sets of characters were interacting in the same world, we basically saw, again, a universe starting to build, and a universe starting to build where I could go out here and, again, build on that world with different stories. Now, after I did The Temptation of John Haynes, I basically needed to bring the Isis character in, and I did that in two ways. One, I did it where Esteem looks up at the sky in the last chapters of The Temptation of John Haynes, and to look up at Osiris, who is her father and the father of Isis. And with that one reference, it basically brings the Isis characters into the whole world of John Haynes. And that's how I built the overall foundation for the SJS Direct Universe. Again, this is not really hard to do. It's just you have two characters interact with each other, and that's how you further build your world and you build your stories. And again, building your stories and your world is something that you do with each story, and each story that you write will build on the next story. And this is how you establish continuity as related to between the stories. And continuity is very easy to do when you understand what you're writing. It's very easy to do as related to storytelling. It's not that hard at all. No. I mean, creating characters is the core to building your world, because it's the person walking through that world that's going to allow you to connect with different people. And an example of this is seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Iron Man. Tony Stark is the lead character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and everywhere he goes, he basically introduces us to new people, and that allows us to see a larger world being built. So creating characters is how that's how you're gonna make your stories and build your world. And again, your stories are gonna be focused on people. People are the foundation of your storytelling and the relationships they have with each other. This is what's going to drive your conflict. This is what's going to make your stories compelling. And this is what's going to have people coming back from story to story. And it's something that, again, is done all the time by professional writers. Professional writers like myself, we know how to create characters and build a world because we understand the foundations of storytelling. And those foundations of storytelling can help you, again, be a great writer. And you can learn a lot about that type of storytelling by not just reading great stories like I write on the SJS Direct imprint, but books about writing that help me over time, like Sid Field's screenplay and Robert McKee's story. Not to mention a lot of screenwriting blogs, because screenwriting is character driven, and that's why I say it's very good to learn the craft of screenwriting, because screenwriting will help you improve as related to your prose writing. Screenwriting will help you be able to tell great stories because you're going to see all the elements of character-driven storytelling right in front of you. And character-driven storytelling is, again, going to be the thing that's going to be able to allow you to become a great storyteller, because it's just, again, you're learning about people and relationships and things about life. Again, this is what's going to, again, help you to become a better writer as related to world building. Now, some people think world building is all about creating all of these different places. No, it's about creating the places the person has to go. And the places the person has to go, we're experiencing them through their eyes, and that's what's going to draw us into the story and make us care, because it's all about the experiences that person is having as they're in this world. Like with John Haynes, he's going from being a guy who was just working and making a living as a black man living in the Bronx and Harlem, to entering the world of this corporate hell and this supernatural as related to Morris Phillips. And as he enters this world, we get to go to see all these supernatural things in places here in New York and abroad, because John Haynes has gone to Transylvania after he confronted Dracula in books like Isis Escape from Transylvania. So we get to see the world through the character's eyes, and that helps us to see a larger world. So this is something that, again, is about when you create characters, again, you're creating people, and we're seeing the world from their eyes and their perspective. And a lot of times when you're writing, the characters will come to life and start telling their own stories. That's what happened to me all the time when I'm writing books, like books in the Isis series or the Esteem series or the John Haynes series. The characters will start to speak for themselves, and they'll start to speak in their own voice, and they'll start talking to you on the page. And if they're talking to you on the page, they're going to be talking to the reader. And the whole thing is that's how you make the characters come to life. And when the characters come to life very well, for a lot of people, it's like a movie in their imaginations. This is what I've run into when I was out here writing, again, books on the SJS Direct imprint, like The Temptation of John Haynes, or I write books like with Matilda Crowley in Spellbound. Now, she's another character I created using the same approaches, and with the Matilda Crowley character, she's a biracial black girl who's in the goth subculture, but the road to becoming a part of the goth subculture was because she was living on the dark side of light skin, one, and two, she was living in a very dark world as related to living in the late world of the late 80s and dealing with the crack epidemic and the people who were either addicted to crack or they were out here selling crack to people. And again, in that, and she was also dealing with the conflict of having to deal with black girls telling her she was not black enough. And all of this basically, again, led to the Matilda character going down a road where she was looking to get off what she called the yellow brick road to hell as related to being light-skinned, and look to try to carve her own way and become her own person. And that's how she becomes the Black Widow over the course of the Spellbound story, breaking the Spellbound mindset, believing that she had to fit into a black box that was acceptable to white people, and one of those white people was her father. So there was a lot of conflict with Matilda's character. And again, when you have great internal and external conflicts, like Matilda was an introvert, she was a shy girl who was trying to find her own voice and trying to find a way to express herself. That was what she wanted. What she wanted to do was find her own voice, to basically speak for herself, break out of this whole spellbound idea of being a tragic mulatto and become her own person, and overcome the conflicts of dealing with not only black people but her own issues as related to seeking validation and approval from other people. She was dealing with a lot of different conflicts as she became a part of the goth subculture, and again, creating character. And as I built her part of the world, her world was a part of a neighborhood called Sugar Hill. It was a part of Harlem, and I wanted to bring that part of the world of the SJS Direct universe to life, and bring it to life basically from my own life experiences, going to Harlem to see other members of the family on my father's side. Again, wanted to bring that part of the world alive and bring it alive to people. So that's what I wanted to do as related to Matilda's character. And again, her character was partially visually was inspired by actress Persia White, but actually inspired by what something Persia White said about being so dark because she was so light-skinned, and that was something I related to because as a light-skinned person, I dealt with people basically showing me the dark side of light skin, and that they objectified me, did not see me as a human being, and wanted to fit me into their ideas and their fantasies. And that's where I came up with the whole concept of being spellbound, because a spellbound person wants to fit themselves into a black box that's acceptable to white people and wants you to conform to those standards in order to feel comfortable around you. And with Matilda, she wanted to, again, be her own person and have the freedom to be herself, something she felt she couldn't do in the black community. And she felt that in the black community, she felt like she was being bullied and harassed, and that was something I drew from my own personal experiences. So creating characters, again, it comes from not only your ideas, but from being inspired by performers like I was with Esteem with Sally Richardson, or with Lucifer with Keith David. Sometimes I get inspired by things in real life that I have experienced, and again, I can draw from those experiences in order to tell a story and build a world of people and draw you into that world of people so that you can see a richer picture of life at a time and really get to know people and get to know a world of people. That's what I try to do when I create characters and a world. And it's something that's really fun for me to do, and I really enjoy doing it. And I was really glad that the viewer asked for this video, because I like to share in the creative process, and I like to share the creative process so that other readers can understand the foundations of storytelling, so they can go out here and tell their own compelling stories. Now, this was a video requested by a viewer, and if you want to request a video, you can drop a donation for a minimum of $15 to the PayPal or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to check out my stories to see how I create characters and build worlds, you can go out here and pick up the books on the SJS Direct imprint, like those in the like The Temptation of John Haynes, books like the Isis series, books like the Esteem series, books like the John Haynes series, books like Spellbound, The Legendary Mad Matilda and Spinsterella, and books like Eternal Night. You can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback at e-readers. Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteem Horror in the Hamptons. The aspiring angel tries to escape a house of horrors in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem Horror in the Hamptons in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.